Hello there. Welcome back to Charles Circle, and welcome back to Captain of Industry. Last time, we brought our computing capacity online by building a handful of mainframe computers. We started making use of that computing capacity by beginning to upgrade all of our various manufacturing setups from assembly 3s to robotic assembly 4s. That improved our production rates and also saved a ton of workers. We put those workers to good use trying out the office building. But we ultimately decided that while these are very interesting bonuses, we're not ready to allocate like a tenth of our workforce to these bonuses quite yet. So I have paused that building and the supporting office supplies production for now. Now, all those mainframe computers and robotic assemblies took a lot of electronics too. Directly in the case of these mainframes, right? 200, but also indirectly in the form of construction parts 4. 100 for each of these mainframes and 40 every single time we want to upgrade to an assembly 4. And construction parts 4 require electronics for each. So we've really been going through our supply, as you can see. So while I'll totally acknowledge that our Electronics 2 factory could use a little bit of optimization, we're clearly not bringing in enough copper from across the base to start. For today's goal, hear me out. Let's double our entire Electronics 2 factory. I know, I can hear you already. It was such an ordeal to build in the first place, and surely 60 per minute is enough. Just optimize the current setup and be patient. Counter-argument though, we are fundamentally limited in our expansion right now by our Electronics 2 supply. Construction parts 4 is really the thing that we need a lot of in order to keep building, not just what we want to build in the short term, but everything else going forward. And it may seem daunting, but it'll actually be pretty simple. Although, to be fair, I suppose simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. Still, doubling isn't that complicated. We can simply upgrade our entire manufacturing setup from 3s to 4s. That will double production in this segment. Now, we will have to also double the supporting raw material production. But we've got the workers for it, right? And we've got at least a decent amount of spare power capacity, and certainly also the ability to add more pretty easily if we want to just start slapping down turbines like this here and there. And imagine the payoff. Once we do pull it off, we'll be swimming in construction parts 4, which will make the late game our oyster, since it's the last construction part in the tech tree. Imagine how nice it'll be to just instantly construct whatever future builds we want. Now, this will admittedly be ambitious, so it'll probably cause a little bit of chaos around the base along the way, but I'm confident we can navigate it, whatever it is, as it pops up. And just to set expectations quickly, it did take us 3 episodes to build this complex in the first place. This won't be nearly as long, right? It's just an upgrade. We're not starting from scratch. But there is a decent chance this ends up a 2-parter, so you have been warned. But I'm excited. I think we should do it. So let's get into it. So the first thing that we need to solve before we do anything else, because it won't matter, is our copper ore supply issue. Now, if we come out to our copper mine, we have plenty of copper. In fact, we have trucks sitting out here with copper waiting to empty into this storage. That's not the problem, or at least it's certainly not the primary problem. The primary problem is that our train is not able to transport enough of it. A lot of that comes down to a compromise that we made a long time ago to export copper and sand from these mines, together. It made a lot of sense at the time, and some of the logic still holds, right? They're processed together, and where they are used, they are often used together. At our copper plant here in our manufacturing area, sand is added to crushed copper to make copper. Right next door is our glass factory, which of course also consumes sand by way of glass mix. Out here, same thing, we're making copper, sand, and copper are both required. We also use sand to produce silica. So that logic still holds, but several times now, in several places, we've come across the problem that our consumption is not equally balanced at 50-50 in each of these places, and certainly not all the time. For example, even here, you can see we're definitely consuming some of the copper and some of the sand, but we have so much extra sand here. And if our copper runs but our glass doesn't, that's imbalanced, and vice versa. The same thing's true out here, as you can quite clearly see. We have an excess of sand. We have put a band-aid on it in the short term in the past by simply adjusting our 8-car trains and putting product filters on so that 6 of the 8 cars were copper. That's a fine temporary fix, but it's a pretty active situation that we have to monitor and adjust continuously. And that's, a little frustrating from time to time, and it certainly takes up more of our attention than it needs to. So I think what we're going to do is separate those out into 2 different trains, at least for out here. On this short route, I think we're okay so far. You can see it's generally taking most of the train, and if anything, there's a little bit of excess copper. And it's such a short route that it's generally able to keep up. But over longer distances, particularly when copper typically is the one running a little too hot compared to sand, I think we're just dealing with a bit of a pretty continuous imbalance, and it's hard to adjust. So I think what we're going to do is build a new train, which we will actually, I think, just copy off of that existing train, wherever he is. Where are you? There you are. Same line, but we're going to make this one copper only, all the way through. Let's see if that fixes it. If it does, once we're caught up, we'll make this train filter sand only. And that way, as long as each train is specific to one resource, if one train runs it full, basically, no problem. It won't impact access to the other. This may not be sufficient. It's our first attempt. So let's see how that goes. I will also, because we're swimming in Unity, speed that along. Okay. that's our first question. And by the way, this sand mine is getting relatively low in the first place. We still have to scrape out the bottom, of course, so there's still plenty here. But we may end up changing our sand source and potentially, therefore, even our sand delivery method. For example, this is sand, this is sand, this is quartz, which we can grind into sand, and all of that is a lot closer than way over there. So, let's keep an eye on it here. And meanwhile, our crusher is boosted to play catch up. Why don't we help speed things along here as well? Can't hurt. We've got the resources. This brings me to the next question that I have in this area. I am getting flashbacks to last episode every time I see power be even slightly a problem. If you didn't catch the last episode, we got deeply derailed about halfway through with power problems that took quite a while for me to diagnose. I did manage to cut out a lot of the hemming and hawing in post, but it was quite the production. It turned out that we actually had gotten so efficient with our recycling of water back into this system out here that we were relying on these thermal desalinators to absorb a lot of this lower energy steam byproduct, but it couldn't because the water was full, because all of the recycling in the system meant we weren't consuming enough water to absorb all of that steam. Fun problem, which we solved by processing extra steam out here in the cooling tower and dumping water, pure water, out into the ocean from time to time. Very strange. Okay. But this set of ghostly blueprints is a leftover vestige from a question that we left unsolved when we built this in the first place, which was, do we make enough glass out here that we are able to supply this factory, or does it need its own glass production and supply? I would argue we've actually managed to supply it pretty well. And from that perspective, this is not necessary. The, I suppose, counter argument is, sure, we have been able to make all of it. However, we consume this glass out here in PCB, and because we are consuming 30 of it per minute when this is running at full speed, that means that every 2 minutes, that every 120 seconds, a fully loaded 60 capacity truck, although I suppose we have them overloaded slightly, has to run out here. And that's not the end of the world. Our truck network has some capacity, but it might be better because this is running as slowly as it ever will. It will only increase over time. It might be better if we do build this, at least some of it, anyway. Now, the delay, I think, is still very much worthwhile because, and this was part of the rationale initially to kick the decision down the road, this glassmaker, one, the basic one, is very inefficient. It takes 24 molten glass, and it makes 12, and it breaks the other half. So typically, and I'll show you this downtown, typically what we do is we just recirculate that broken glass back to the front and run it again. and it's slightly more efficient to run broken glass than it is to put in glass mix again de novo. Slightly less polluty, less coal required, but nothing that needs processed twice is going to be super efficient. So we recently unlocked the Glassmaker 2, which in addition to being a comically long and skinny building, takes that same 24 molten glass in and turns it into a full and perfect 24 glass out. No notes. That's pretty good. Certainly simplifies the process. The other thing that we've unlocked since then is the Arc Furnace 2. Now, I have given my, I think, spiel on why arc furnaces in general are a little bit underwhelming. The 10-second version is, this is the same throughput as a blast furnace, but it's more complicated. It requires a water and steam recycling loop. It still produces, some slag. It doesn't take coal, which is nice, but it does take graphite. And what's most, I think, vexing to me is that you can boost a blast furnace 2. You cannot boost an arc furnace 2. So there's no strategic surge capacity in one of these. However, we have a ton of graphite and we need to do something with it. And when this fills up, I'm just going to have to make another one, and so on and so forth, until we find something to do with it, because this is made as a byproduct of recycling all the CO2 in our base. And that's required if we would like to keep minimizing our air pollution impact, and by the way, keep producing sulfur, which has some value, by scrubbing all of that exhaust. Of course, we can just vent the CO2 that comes out of this process and still produce that, but it's part of that supply chain. So I think what we're going to do is add some capacity out here. We aren't going to require that this facility is perfectly, autarkic in the sense of not requiring anything from the outside. But if we produce one of these, which, by the way, this can support 2. This will produce 48, right? And we just said we only need 30 here. And if we upgrade all of these to robotic assemblies in the longer run, doubling the entire facility, 48 is still most of 60. And it should, at a minimum, drastically cut down how many of these trips need to be run. Besides, everything we need is right here. We'll still use a glass mixer. But we can simplify a lot of this as well. So I think we're going to add this. I also think, one of the other things to keep in mind here, I also think that we're going to upgrade in the downtown as well, because currently, to produce, by the way, the same 48 glass, we have this entire setup. What I just blueprinted out here, this is exactly as productive as this entire system. 24 times 2, 12 times 4. This requires, as a result, well, because half of it's coming back as broken glass, something less as a weighted average than 4 times 12, 48 coal, but it's still a decent amount of coal. It produces, again, something like just under, I don't know, it's probably about 80 exhaust. Admittedly, this is less, right? It also consumes less than 120, but more than 60 glass mix. This only requires 60 glass mix. So what I'm trying to say is we could put this, we'll have to arrange the buildings, differently, but we could put this here, save on resources and space, and have upgraded this production and found a productive use for this graphite. So I think it's time to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and go into a little bit of a time lapse here. Before I do, maybe I'll blueprint the copper production first and then slap down the glass. Do you think we could make that work? I think I would do arc furnaces again instead of blast furnaces for the second copy of copper. Again, we just need to be using that graphite up, but we would still have 50% we could boost. We could have still some surge capacity here. So I wouldn't be changing anything here, but when we make the second copy, we could make it in arc furnaces. I think I'll blueprint the copper, and then I'll actually build the glass. I think that's going to be the move. All right. Well then, I'll time lapse, and we'll talk in a moment. Well, as you can see, I realized also that if we're going to end up doubling our copper production to do all of this at 2x, we will also need to double our silica production, and yeah, very clearly that will not all fit in here. And so at that point, I figured we won't do this until we decide to double, but I figured why not, since we're blueprinting everything, why not go ahead and blueprint that transition as well. Again, not going to pull the trigger on that quite yet, but it's there. Since we're hooking everything up already, we might as well. So that's that. Now, for all of the work that we just did, what are we actually going to build of this? Not nearly as much as we blueprinted, but the glass was the whole point. And that'll mean the glass mixer, its inputs, and everything that it'll need to be connected to as well. The infrastructure for all the arc furnaces, which means the water recycling and the graphite input, as well as the water supply, which comes from over here. There's a balancer here, which will prioritize the recycled water, but then send it along this path here, branching out to each of the individual arc furnaces where required. Graphite, keep full, will empty up onto this level, and jump down where necessary to each of the arc furnaces. These ones will start. The glass mix has limestone and salt manual inputs. They're coming from not that far away. And is also conveniently receiving sand from this line, which is continuing along here. Decent chance we upgrade. You know what? Let's just do this. Everything that's in this long line, basically, really ought to be of our best belts, throughput-wise, right? Because it's now servicing a few more machines than we originally designed it to, and we have the ability. So let's just say, for example, all of these should go up. And really just in this entire line, let's say all 2s to 3s on belts. The water's not a big deal, but that should all work. Okay. I think is that right for, so glass mix. So the other nice thing, right? It's just 60, it's not even a mixer 2. Oh, I need to change this to the correct recipe, huh? Hang on. This is a copper one. We only need one. Okay. Whew. That was almost, completely fine, but a mistake, objectively. So we don't need that. So right, this is just an arc furnace 2. This is the 4th arc furnace 2 for copper. It just splits out or spreads out a little bit beyond the edge of the module, same as it does with the blast furnaces. This one just requires 1. Great. And back to what I was saying, it only requires 60 glass mix. So a single mixer will be sufficient. And we thread that needle right through here, input-wise. And then on the output side, we're going to need to build this is the steam flow recycling and the exhaust on levels 2 and 3. So we'll have to build these all the way out to where they meet up. The exhaust simply continues along this pipe. Wow. So you just never get copper if your exhaust pipe hasn't even gotten the coloration. Yeah, he's the last in line. Makes sense. But then the water recycles back this way through here, and again is prioritized there. All right. Molten channels. Outputs belts out to here. So we've set this up so that we can still receive glass from here, although as I look at it, I suppose this should be priority. If that's the whole point, we should probably make this a balancer. So let's quickly do that as well. Great. Okay, so I think that should take care of itself. And in the meanwhile, incredible timing, here is our first copper-only train. So let's see, I mean, he's doing 8 cars, 120. Is that 960? So, I mean, it's almost half of this container right away. This should help, hopefully. The one issue we, of course, still have is that we haven't at all changed the throughput of our train stations. So this is going to take slightly longer to unload than it otherwise could if these were both copper. But I don't think that's anywhere near our bottleneck. It's not like the next train is lined up here and waiting. So hopefully that's all right. The power dips here are slightly concerning to me. I suppose the simplest thing would be to take one of these off auto balance. Just have it run, basically commit to running continuously. I feel like that would be fine, right? Alright, let's get up to speed 3 and let these constructing trucks do their job. And just like that, the copper's gone. But our other train, this is our original one that still brings sand, because we are still going to go through sand here. That's helpful. I wonder how far away the other guy is. I mean, he's not even back yet, is he? Yeah, he's not. Ooh, mega vehicles. That's cool. I think it might be time to research nuclear. As a nice little tease. Let's also, while we have the pops, get back out onto the world map here. What is our battle score? Like, what battles can we actually take right now? 210. It's not impressive. I think we might have hit... Ah, there we go. We can do that. Okay, that's good. And how are we on? All right, good. Hearts are okay. We are super not doing great on these fellas. So, come along now, copper. That's the end of that train's supply. Oh, I suppose we are going to need to do this as well, huh? Oh, and this. So, sorry, this is the one last input for the... You know what? I'm just gonna do all of these because there's really no reason not to. It's not like it's expensive, and I'd rather not be missing things. Hey, a battle. We can still take this, right? Yep, pairs of patrol ships can handle this battle. We've done it before. Might even do it again. So yeah, the acid does come from here all the way over. What is this? Oh, this is just a leftover copy-paste. That's this... Yeah, that's this exhaust line. Huh. Interesting. It's also not necessary, right? Because we connected up out here, right? Yeah. Huh. Funny little artifact. Right? Is that what happened? It's very odd. We don't need this, right? Before I delete it? I mean, it's literally not connected to anything, but... Yeah. Okay. Very odd. I don't remember seeing that here when I brought the acid pipe over, which is actually a good point. We're gonna need to build this all the way through too. But a location. Hey, cool. All right, so we have unlocked microchip tech. We still have to research it, let alone implement it, but that is a nice thing to have unlocked. And this is great. I mean, not only is it obviously consumption of graphite, but it is also another buffer. So we'll take that too. Actually gonna ask them to focus out here for now, because I'd like to make sure that we still have some room to navigate around here. You're just full, that is fine. Yeah, we are sketchy on power here. We know we don't want this running because this isn't boosted, and that was part of the problem last time, but it was definitely a red herring. I mean, should we just remove auto balance across the board, I guess? This is why we are researching nuclear. We are pushing up against our power here, for sure. The other thing we can do, and because I keep forgetting and I don't want to miss out on concrete production, I can upgrade that. But we can continue to add paved surfaces here. In fact, I think we're going to do this whole area. Since we're working on it, right? Oh no, we have our diesel kicked in? No. That... I thought these were all paused. They should have been paused this entire time. You're repaired. Can you get here? So that does bring us down to 72 max. So why are we not running continuously at max? That's the question that I have. You're receiving everything you need. Are you? Let's put these as baseload priority so that they never wobble, so to speak, because this plant, unfortunately, just sort of based on design, is a little wobbly because we try to run this steam through here. So, all right, let's think about this. From a boiler perspective, we have 4 high-pressure turbines, 2 there, 2 here, that should be running, essentially receiving the entire output of 1 boiler each time. And that is 1-to-1 with 4 of these low-pressure turbines as well. Those are not variable, they should be running constantly, there is no reason they wouldn't be, and we are not observing them running any other way. Those 4 each make 12 plus 6, 18, and each power 1 mechanical generator. 4 times 15, that should be 60. Now we're receiving, despite having a 5th, less than that, which is odd to me. 100%, 100%. I think it's just gotta be out here, right? That we're getting weird spin up, spin down dynamics. So if we pause this, it does kind of smooth things out. Is this gonna now slowly approach 60? Right? It does, it smooths that out. Sad. Okay. So, I mean, look, I think the lesson that I've learned here is it's not worth this trying to squeeze your steam low into a power plant. I think the variable nature of it just sort of, you lose the efficiency that comes with any amount of, I guess, savings, quite the right word, any amount of like being able to use the steam that you're putting out. So I think, personally, that my new recommendation is to not do that. It's just not worth the trouble. And so that has some implications about rewiring over here that I think we're just gonna leave be, frankly. And we'll move on from this facility, by the way, in the longer run here when we do get over to nuclear. Now, nuclear is an entire setup, so we're gonna have to transition to that, which does mean that we'll need to get there, which means we probably need to slap down another turbine somewhere. And this can handle more output. No, it can't. It's actually set. Trying to think where we can basically just branch off some coal and water real quick. I mean, technically there's coal and water down here, huh? Yeah, I'm gonna do that real quick. I'm just gonna slap down a quick extra turbine, maybe two. We'll see. Just to get us to nuclear, because I'm tired of troubleshooting this. It got too cute, I think. So be it. All right, be right back. But yeah, I mean, this is sort of conveniently located. Certainly, we have the water already. We'll recycle as much of it as we can. And that's balanced. That's prioritized here. But the steam heads out here. And we'll auto-balance these. But I think this is unfortunately very much necessary. So, is what it is. We're okay with it. And the exhaust isn't working. Why? Of course, because we didn't actually build this all the way through. I'm also anticipating some throughput issues here at some point as a result of that. Because if those are firing a lot, this is another 120. Might be okay. We'll find out. But we definitely want to keep an eye on that. Oh, we need to let the limestone train get back in action. We're actually going through the limestone now. Okay. So that should solve power. I hope. We'll find out. But alright, good. So this looks like copper is, well, hard to say. This is still unloading. But copper's definitely doing better. Ah, and look, this train is even ready again. So maybe that's good. Ah, interesting. Let's see if this stays. So I set this alert because we were having steam. We were getting high steam from this boiler that we didn't want, and it was crowding out the other steam. That said, we sure seem like we are not quite getting enough. As a result, this is what we troubleshot last time. But this seems to be working. So we're going to adjust this to 50%, but we're keeping an eye on it. And this doesn't seem to be running again, I guess, because, yeah, great. So that all makes sense. Now, is this a throughput issue? Because, yeah, you're not full quite yet, are you? Yeah, we might have to boost it, but I think the issue at this point is just too much throughput in this pipe. So let's work our way back. Hopefully that helps, but again, we may end up having to actually boost this, which is fine. Quarter of a unity, not a big deal at all. What I'm actually a little bit worried about is we're going to have to boost this first. That's okay. You know what? Why worry about it? Let's just do it proactively. We have the unity. We're literally capped, so that's fine. Our glass is functioning though too, right? So this is coming out. And we are avoiding having to bring glass over here. So that's good. Here's our limestone. Copper, still not quite keeping up. Although the supply is fine. This isn't a train traffic issue, is it? Not really. Or is it? Well, he's here again already. You're waiting for some free track as well, I'm sure. That is a long amount of free track to need access to. Or are you waiting? Oh, you guys are... Well, oh, I see. This piece of track is an issue. Because our drop-off point here blocks him up. He's running now, right? No? Well, now this guy's coming through. Alright, so here's something I was already thinking about. Wow. Okay. Let's actually tell trucks to work on these, because this is a dumping zone. And I think we're kind of getting to the point where we don't need to fill in as aggressively over here. So I think we might actually take one of those dumping trains off the road. And in fact, reuse it immediately as another copy of our copper only train, which should work because, yep, because we have those exact pieces already there. We just need to deliver a new tank of gas. Cool. So let's see. Yeah, this stretch right here has become like very contested. Unfortunately, we've kind of painted ourselves into a corner in this space about that. Oh, nitrogen is full. I kind of want to make another big storage here for overflow nitrogen. Because I really... ammonia, excuse me. Because I really don't want to waste it. Yep, okay. So that should hopefully keep us from, most importantly, just dumping sour water, which is our backup here. If we're full, we keep backing up on this slowly because, frankly, we're just not consuming enough fertilizer. It's really what it comes down to. So that's all right, we'll get to it. Let's grab the rest of the ship weapons research because we keep losing battles and we are getting blocked up there. How is this going? Yeah, I mean, the water's staying full, right? This is despite our desalinators basically like, I mean, not never, but very rarely running. So I think this is good. I'm not going to delete this because, I mean, what am I really saving? Ooh, that is not a lot of coal anymore, since we're running power plants down here. Multiple of them, really, in fact. So here's hoping that keeps up, huh? We don't need the chlorine here anymore. I was initially thinking, well, you know, we can export it to the rest of the base. We don't need to export chlorine anywhere. Anywhere we need chlorine, we're already making it. So that's okay. Nice. Better guns. We go from 210 to 430. Let's see how much this does. Because, I mean, it's still, right, there's still some on the line here. It's just going to start getting into our power supply is the issue. We might just make another one of these trains real quick. By might, I mean I just did. It's definitely happening. Now the sand is out. Let's see how that evens out. The important thing is we're adding train capacity to these lines, and if we have to rearrange the cars, no problem. We'll deal with that. Ship mods complete. Let's hit the world map again. Didn't we catch a battle here? Oh, it keeps sending us through here. That's annoying. I want to go around. Maybe we don't have the range for that. We said we're at 410 now, is that right? Something like that? 430 even. Yeah, I mean, we should be able to take this one, right? Let's find out. This does seem to have solved the exhaust issue, because all of this is clearly running. The CO2 is okay, as long as it's boosted, which seems good. I think we can stop boosting this. And the glass being backed up is also good, expected, right? Because if it's actually consuming 30 per, this is 48. This actually shouldn't run full. It'll only ever need supplemented if we end up being able to upgrade all of the manufacturing in here, which is something we could consider starting to do, to be honest with you. I'd like to see the coal supply stabilize over here before we start adding power requirements again. But otherwise, I am actually completely fine with starting to upgrade these. And how is our compute? We have a little bit of space there. Recycling edict. This is ore consumption avoidance, so that'll be nice. We're happy to do that. He's back. I'm getting repaired. want to make sure that we're not sending the limestone train. Yeah, only if any are empty. Good, so he's almost recharged, which means he'll stop being so much of a traffic issue. Power's wobbling. $60 out of 90. All right, let me just do a quick, thorough question about how much we should have on auto balance versus not. It looks like, I mean, obviously it sort of gets spiky, but it looks like we always consume, I mean, at least 45. Really, if we produce 60, I'm not going to be too upset about it. So I think we should have 4 of these sets, basically, running on not auto balance. And I might even say, yeah, wow, I mean, they should definitely at least correspond. Let's say it's these 4, here, 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 and let's let our problem child facility, in fact, let's make you, yep, production priority 1 as well. Let's let that 60 be our entire base load, and we'll just tell all of this go on auto balance. And it'll run very inefficiently out here, and that will be fine. That will be fine. Because it won't run that often. We just need to make sure that there's somewhere for our trash to go. So just let me know if this is ever full. We're running through less and less byproduct over time as well. So, like, okay, let me. I know I've been complaining about this facility because it's been a bit of a problem child lately, but it's not that this is a bad facility. It's just that its useful life is nearing an end, right? This was absolutely the right way to start out. It was near our coal mine. It leveraged something we needed to do anyway. Burn trash, burn biomass, burn byproducts. It even, and you know, this is the part where I'm on the fence about whether or not it's worth it in the longer run, but it did even make some use out of our waste products in the exhaust scrubber too. So it's not to say that we shouldn't have done this. I might slightly tweak how I would set it up in the future, but this absolutely served its purpose. It is just, as I said, nearing the end of its useful life. The one other thing we could consider doing is playing around with the thermal storage tech, which I may have just talked myself into. But what that does is it actually sort of, it's not quite a, well, you could think about it as a battery for steam. It's not a super efficient one, but it sort of stores thermal energy in molten salt. It takes like a lot of salt to set up, actually. But it can absorb that extra steam, I believe, well, let's see the recipes in a moment. I believe not just the high steam, but also the lower steam. And we could sort of charge it up that way, and then I don't know what the heck we would do with it later. Discharge it occasionally for power, but that's an option that might be a better way to sort of buffer that. We'll find out. Has Electronics 2 production caught up? Not quite. Rubber. Oh, interesting. Rubber. You have what you need, you're just not sufficient anymore, right? That all makes sense. Well, we blueprinted these extra guys for a reason. Let's see if we have the naphtha. Of course. We actually maybe don't have the naphtha. Is that just because it's intermittent, or what's going on with this? Oh, interesting. We weren't prioritizing it. Yeah, we do. We want to prioritize it this way. We're sending some out here, actually, to our byproducts train. It was definitely still disposing of some heavy oil for us, which is good. Because we wanted to make sure that we were getting some out to plastic here. Okay. I mean, we're fine on plastic. We are so fine on plastic. Every episode that goes by, the sillier this overbuild looks. Like, we have not had even a bit of plastic problems with this single plant running. So, well, we'll see. But I kind of expected that we'd be chewing through it more over here, but we don't seem to be. Good problem to have. Coal is catching up, so that's good. This is officially caught up. Sand is officially not, but that's actually maybe a sand supply issue, because we're getting into some rock here. And in fact, this is worthless to be digging in. We need to get in over here. I'm going to quickly adjust this designation. I'll be right back. All right, that ought to help a little bit. It's the other reason we're sending so much rock out, huh? But this is filling in nicely, which is good. Once it does, we should have a think about where we want to send all of our dumping products. This is about to be no longer active. And what that actually will end up meaning is we can kind of fill in what we're about to dig out with the rock from over here. And this is going to net out to probably not much dumping at all. We don't exactly export rock from over here. In fact, we dump it right here. We'll fill this back in too. So the question is really going to become like, what do we want to do with the rock and dirt that we're pulling out? We're like, I'm fine with slowing this pace. So it becomes, what do we want to fill in? And I still think the answer is probably something out here. This is coming along, which is great. This, as a reminder, is our quest to make a bauxite mine doable. Let's take a peek at the thermal storage. So, it can store steam as heat. It charges up, it fills up on this heat by absorbing steam and turning it into water. It's not unlike a cooling tower in that way. But then it can discharge that heat as steam later if you add water to it. Now what I'm wondering is, if we charge it up with steam low, can we then discharge it as steam high later? Because obviously it's not as efficient, but if we can transform it into steam high, like, that's actually kind of neat. I think it's worth an experiment, especially as we're sort of thinking about how to adjust this facility anyway. So here's what we're going to do. This now goes here. Yeah. It's decided. This now goes here. And the entire output from this is now going to go over there. Ooh, do we actually have 600 salt? I honestly don't know the answer to that. I guess so. This will then have to discharge some water. So we'll probably just use that as a recycling. Call it here. It'll also need water, by the way. Not yet, but we can connect that out in a moment as well. Alright, so we should have proof of principle pretty quickly. Because we're going to find out once it starts to take a bit of steam. Whether we can change that. So basically, does this number reset back down to 0? It does not. So then we can add water back in and then discharge this as steam high. This is good. This is very good. Because what we'll do, so here, let me allow this to charge for a little while. But what we're going to do then, we're going to keep these paused and this. But we're going to let this charge with all of the excess steam low. And when it gets full, we're going to flip over to steam high and have it output that steam into our steam balancer, which will help us avoid spending coal. Nice. Okay. With that in mind, then, I think we're actually going to adjust one last time here. We're going to ask this facility to keep going because we are filling up on a bunch of other stuff. And we'll put, I don't know, this one's farthest away. We'll put this whole setup on auto balance. But this should only be running this trimmed down set. This I would delete. I would delete all three of these if it wouldn't, you know, disconnect our turbine. If this works in a more sustainable way, maybe we will even make that change in the long run and keep this facility around, basically just to burn all this stuff. But because we do want to keep, this is still the best way for us to get rid of our trash. I thought I was supposed to get an alert here. Did not. And it's also the best use for our excess heavy oil, and we do have to do something with that, otherwise it fills up out here. So, okay, good. Feeling good about that now. This is nice, and we could have gotten to be clear, we could have gotten this tech a long time ago. This is something I now wish we had actually made use of before, but that is okay. Better late than never. Although we are going to need another one of these, huh? All right, but I think we'll have to leave it here for today. We're out to a good start over here, though. Everything's blueprinted and glass is built. We'll probably kick off next episode, actually, by upgrading our downtown glass production, too. But yeah, let's leave that for the next episode, then. Good work today, though. I enjoyed myself. I hope you did, too. If you did, be sure to stop by again next time and see us finish doubling up our Electronics 2 production. Until then, though, have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.